Good morning. Thank you for having us here. Very, very happy to be back in Guwahati and with the Balipara Foundation amongst a very, very esteemed and distinguished panel that I have with me. My name is Tarun Verma. I lead Human Resources, Sustainability, Business Excellence and Ethics for the Consumer Products Division of the Tata Group. I also have a background having worked for a company called Shell, which has been one of the most energy-intense companies in the world in some sense. So I bring some background on carbon, energy and water. And I've also worked for a company called Coke, which has another dimension in terms of FMCG. So I'll try and add some kind of variety in the discussion. If I may introduce my distinguished speakers over here. On my very right, Dr. Dhawan. I don't think you need any introduction now, but as the Director General of TERI, the Energy Research Institute. Dr. Dhawan is a Fellow of the National Academy of Sciences and is currently also an Adjunct Professor at the Consul General South Asia Partnership for Michigan State University. She's an author of multiple books and publications. She's received multiple awards. I will go through the whole list. We might have to take the whole session. But let me just say that she's one of the leading thinkers in this space, one of the game changers from India, and has made her presence felt not just as a leader, but also as a person who makes real social impact. Thank you, ma'am. If I may move to my very left side, I have Karuna Singh. Ma'am is the Regional Director Asia for the Earth Day Network. Now many of us may be familiar with Earth Day. She's a leading environmental advocate and is the leading force behind the Earth Day Network in India. She's had over 24 years of experience, including a career with the US State Department, and now she spearheads the Earth Day program in nearly 25 countries, impacting 5 billion people. Speaker at global forums like the UN Conference of Parties in 21. Also a prolific author on green economies. And again, she engages stakeholders, forms partnerships, and develops regionally relevant programs. If I may now move back, I'll come to you, Nimrod. So I think ladies first. Yeah, let me. If I may come to my right, again, we have Dr. Purnima Devi Burman. Dr. Burman is a wildlife biologist, and again, she adds a very different dimension to this panel. And I'll have to pronounce it correctly now, so please help me if I get this wrong. But you are known as the Hargila Baido. Is that correctly pronounced? That means stork sister, and this is for her leading work in protecting the great adjutant stork, which we'll hear a bit more about. She has worked in this space for many years, mobilized more than 10,000 rural women, and has been a leading voice for both the birds and the biodiversity. Has been a winner of several awards, including UN Champions of Earth, Nari Shakti Puraskar, and she's also a recipient of the Green Oscars from Her Royal Highness Princess Anne. Wow, okay, now let me come to you, Nimrod. I think being the two guys in the panel, we come last. Nimrod has a very interesting background in being an entrepreneur and a founder and international partner of behavioral foresight. You're into health, development, psychology, and you're also into sports psychology for the Rajasthan Royals, I'm told. We should discuss cricket afterwards. Yeah. On that note, let me first start off by just giving this this discussion a bit of flavor, and then I'll first come to you, ma'am, Dr. Dhawan, and then I'll come to you, ma'am, with my questions. The northeastern part of India boasts, of course, as we all know, several natural resources. But just 3.77% of the nation's populace, and yet we do have significant hurdles in terms of waste management, in terms of implementing waste management, and in terms of clear regulations, laws, and I think the basic sense of also driving discipline around waste segregation, education on waste disposal, awareness, and of course well-established waste management organizations. The topics that I want to touch upon in our discussion will range from societal, environmental, bit of innovation, and what is that we do in the space. But what I would first start really with is, Dr. Dhawan, you've been in this space for many, many years. You know, waste is something that I think we all have our points of view on, but if I may first start with, do we really accept that we have a problem on waste management in our country, especially in the northeastern part?
Well, definitely it's a big problem in our country, and that is what had drawn the attention of the government as well. And when we talk of waste, and I believe it's a wrong word, because nothing is a waste, it's wasted. And we started wealth from waste, there are so many things. So as a country, you very rightly mentioned the problem lies with the attitude. Because the moment we don't want to use something, we treat it as waste, while the waste is a raw material for something else. And since segregation becomes a big problem, and therefore it is not attractive to go for the processing part of it. If you look at many developed countries, and I'll say one of my colleagues in Switzerland, and he said, look, we never even throw the newspaper the way it is treated in India. We just wrap it properly and then stack it. Otherwise, there are government regulations as well. In the absence of regulation, what is happening is, whether we talk of any kind of waste, whether it's generated at home, whether it is the agriculture residue, we simply burn it without thinking what kind of wealth it can bring. So it's basically attitudinal problem that we treat what is not useful to me today is waste, which is not the case. So if we start treating it properly, we'll find the ways. We'll immediately say, why not to make compost at home, and therefore all the kitchen waste should go there. Why not to sell the old newspapers and papers rather than just dumping it. And even if it is collected, like at my home, I always segregate, but then the person who comes to collect it, he wants the poly bag, and therefore he mixes everything. So that is where it's becoming a problem. So we are not looking at how to create wealth from the wasted material.
Thank you, ma'am. And in fact, in the past, we've done some work with Terry, and I think the fact that your waste, it's not really waste itself. There is waste to energy, waste to fuel, waste to value is what I believe is the path going forward. Thank you. Let me move on to awareness, ma'am, and you've been driving this, and if I may call out specifically, last year for Earth Day, your focus was a great global cleanup. This year, and for all of you youngsters in this room, the focus is going to be planet versus plastic. If I may ask you to please build upon that, what are you doing in that space to build awareness, ma'am?
Thank you for that question, and as Dr. Dhawan said, nothing is waste, it's a resource. The problem lies in the fact that we have linear ideas of consumption and production, which we should turn to circular ones, where everything is recycled, everything is remanufactured, and every part of what we call waste is used successfully. So plastic versus planet versus plastic is our theme for 2024, which we have announced. This calls upon all of humanity to come together, because let us not forget, we are together in everything. Anything that happens anywhere in the world will affect all of us. It is not an individual effort, but it's a global effort, calling upon all partners, whether these are policymakers, governments, corporate sector, individuals, and this will lead to awareness building on our part. We need your help in doing that. We will begin with students from schools so that they grow up to be stewards for the environment. And why is it necessary to target plastics, especially single-use plastics? Because everyone knows these, when discarded, will exist on Earth for thousands of years. Not hundreds, but thousands of years. These are already affecting the health of humans. Mother's milk now has microplastics in it. It has been tested. And oceans will be filled more with plastic than fish if we allow this to happen. So the moment is now. We are at a pivotal moment in life where our actions will result in or decide the fate of the planet and the fate of all that live upon it, humans included. We are putting together material that calls upon a reduction in plastic use. And here I must say there is a problem because plastics, especially single-use plastic, is so cheap. So we have to look for alternatives to offer to people that are cheap and which are available in large supply. I come from Bengal where mishti or sweets are very popular, and we did go to the sweet makers and say that instead of giving rasgullas in plastic, why don't you go back to the old habits of giving them in bhars, which are made of clay. And they gave us the financial negatives of doing that. So we have to call upon governments to come and handhold people to make sure that alternatives are available and cheaply available. We cannot force things on people unless these alternatives are there. As far as awareness building is concerned, we have gone to religious sites. Because if you think of religious sites, these have millions of people and there is very little time left before we reach that tipping point of 1.5 degrees. We cannot go individually to people. So we chose religious sites. The Golden Temple is plastic free, Tirupati is plastic free, Jagannath Puri is our latest awardee, it has gone plastic free. And why do we go to these sites? Because what happens is that not only they consume less, but their devotees, which are in millions, also get the message. Badrinath, Kamakha, these are all places that we have recognized as being plastic free and asked the people to speak about that. So we call upon corporates such as yours. We have worked with Terry, of course, and from the Rajasthan Royals, get the cricketers to speak against plastic because you know sportsmen have huge followings over here. So let's all work together. Everyone will benefit, but nobody can do it alone. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So clearly, I think now we've got Dr. Dhawan, who's given us a very clear message that waste is not really waste, and I think that's a very, very strong thing to think about, waste to value. Karuna ma'am has given us a very clear sense of what is awareness and what is happening in this space. And if I may build upon that, ma'am, from a planet point of view, if I may come to you, ma'am, as the Stork sister and as one of the leading voices on protection of birds and biodiversity, if I may ask you, what is it that you are doing that is making such a big difference?
Thank you so much. First of all, সকলোকে নমস্কাৰ জনাইছো আৰু ইয়াত বহুত স্থানীয় ৰাইজকো দেখিছো আৰু বহুত ভাল লাগিছে. So, and good morning everyone. I'm really very honored to be here. Thank you so much for your introduction and for this question. And especially, I just got a last minute entry maybe. Sir, Ranjit Bhattakur sir asked me to beautifully describe the Hargila. I'm so grateful to you, sir. I'm really honored. So I would like to, I wish I could show you the Hargila bird in different way, but I'm not prepared. But I'd like to, I'd like to show my passion and the bird to you. So maybe you can see in my ear the Hargila, Greater Adjutant Stork. Yeah, thank you. And so you can see here also, yes, Hargila bird. And could you see, সকলোৱে দেখিছেনে পিছফালৰ পৰা? হয়, গতিকে এইটো হাৰগিলা চৰাই. So why sir was asking to beautifully describe Hargila? So Hargila bird is when we talk about, often when people talk about waste management, then this Hargila bird also comes automatically. So now I'll tell you. There is a taboo because Hargila bird, it is a scavenger bird. The name itself, Har plus Gila, Hargila, bone swallowers. So there was lots of negative perception. When I started my work 16 years back, people treated this bird as bad omen, disease carrier or pest. And can you believe me, when I went and door to door, many people, because the bird goes to garbage dump, this might be the reason because they are scavengers, they always, even when they saw me, they just put their hands on their nose and they try to relate me with that smell also. Can you believe this? So it was very stressful for me to change the perception. Then, when there is challenge, there is opportunity. So it was like a challenge to bring the bird into culture. And again I would like to, that is another story like with community, and now I am very proud to mention that this bird is now is a part of our day-to-day life. It's a part of our society and our culture. Our women every day celebrate Hargila baby shower. Every day they have this bird, they integrated this into their fashion, in their Assamese traditional culture, dresses, attire, and folk songs, Nam Kirtan, everywhere Hargila you can see. It's like it's our heart. It's a part, and we have more than 10,000 women as Hargila Army, rural women, and who are working very hard. And in the last 17 years, the population from 500 in Assam, now very recently it's been 1800 birds, and I'm very grateful to communities for this. So now I'd like to come back again.
Sorry, I think that deserves a very big round of applause.
Thank you so much. So when we talk about waste management, this bird, 100 years back, this bird was a part of municipality symbol of Kolkata. So they had this bird, but now this bird is not there. If you read about this bird and the connection with Kolkata, so it was treated as they got huge respect for the waste management. And many people keep asking me, Purnima, so Hargila birds are feeding on plastics, right? So they are removing the plastics. But I want to make it clear that they are scavenger birds. At the same time, they also feed on wetlands, like on the fishes, and they are scavengers. They feed on carrion carcasses, but they don't eat. They don't go there to eat plastics. They accidentally or unintentionally, when they go to eat fishery butcher or fishes remains, so they consume. So when Karuna ma'am was telling about the awareness, so I always want to give this strong message to everyone that we need to change our behavior. We have to work on the behavior change, because the Hargila birds or many other birds, they don't know what is there, so they just unintentionally they consume the plastics. We had postmortem on some baby birds, and you will feel very bad to know about that. That when we did the postmortem on the baby birds, a few baby birds, we found plastics, roofs and all. And it's been I think 2014 we did this postmortem, but later also we did it, but we didn't get other samples. So I think it's been happening with many other wildlife, but we need to do more and more research. And at the same time, I want to urge everyone to our own action, to behavior sense, to discard, to switch on the habit, not to use single-use plastics. And thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That's wonderful. And thank you for really sharing the voice, because I think Vibha ma'am, Karuna ma'am, I think as voices, I think this is really where we can take your story out there to more people who should know about this, given the fact that you really address what was seen as not necessarily the most acceptable, and yet you went and adopted a cause which clearly has made such a huge impact. Thank you for that. If I may now come to you, Nimrod. So we've spoken about acceptance, awareness, example of, very wonderful example of how adoption of a local cause. And now let's come to the work that you do. And if I were to just build on, Nimrod's into sustainable manufacturing, and you're using behavioral economics to do that. I am truly intrigued how the two of all of that comes together. So if you could just give an example of that, Nimrod, that'd be awesome.
Thank you very much. First, I'm very honored, and I want to appreciate all the initiatives that the Balipura Foundation is taking and hosting all of us and bringing all of us together and to unite powers and forces towards greater good. 6 years ago, my business partner and I were driving from home to office on a daily basis, and what we could see is lots of waste around us. And we constantly spoke about what can we do. Because we cannot change the municipality, we cannot force people to change their behaviors, but we felt that we have to find a solution. 2 years later, we have done a small research with cricketers related to health, and we tested the gut. And what we found, you spoke about birds eating plastic, we found in professional athletes, with India-based athletes, we found microplastics in their guts, and therefore the performance reduced injuries, sickness, immune system, and so on that we needed to deal with through health. This led us to start, I would say, activate our initiative faster, and we, through a food laboratory, we started looking for alternative for plastic, but without the limitation or the thinking of the plastic industry. What we wanted to allow ourselves is to explore and to see how can we do it without those limitations. It took us 1 more year of R&D to find the first solution where we could combine a few compostable and biodegradable materials into one component that allowed us to create the first plastic bag. We succeeded also to do injection molding, which is the bottles that we know, thermoforming, which is the plates that we eat, and a big range of products, which led us to feel quite empowered on this journey. In the last 3 years, we succeeded to develop 32 different applications, and this is, from your request. We went into the market kept on challenging us from prices to applications, and tried to not allow us to move forward with our programs, and we kept on innovating and innovating. So today we are on 32 different single-use alternative plastic solutions, and we'll be very honored, to support your project. We even succeeded to create an application that helped to increase shelf life of fruits and vegetables. What we saw is another food security in India, and a big issue that lots of farmers using plastic, trying to protect the crops with plastic, and eventually creating lots of pollution and destroying their own economics. So this was one of our biggest success stories that we are taking forward, and we have a few collaborations with companies that are doing farm to customers to help them use our alternatives to the whole logistic supply. At the same time, what we saw that we cannot replace the plastic manufacturers, and the industry is quite heavily ingrained in the culture and in the economy of each country. And therefore, one of the things that we try to developed and happily successful was to use the exact same machinery, the same human resource, the same production and manufacturing units of plastic to our alternatives, which means that especially now with the new rules against the single-use plastic, many of those factories shut down or trying to keep on going against illegally. And what we can give them is a lifesaver work. By using the same manufacturing, the same machinery, we don't need to create anything new, just to use the same thing. And behaviorally, this was one of our greatest success because we could scale from day one. One of the biggest issues with the alternatives, and Karuna will, probably know that very well, is the scale of solutions. Many of the solutions are great, but unscalable, and therefore catering to only small population. What we succeeded to do by manufacturing through the normal plastic machineries is to be able to scale any of our 32 applications. So the mix of science and behavioral understanding of how people would like to keep on behaving by changing one component for them was our biggest success.
Thank you, Nimrod. And I think that's a wonderful example, and I wish the Royals fantastic IPL this time. I'm sure you've taken the plastics out for them to perform better. Let me pick out the point, ma'am, you said about the planet versus plastics, and I also want to get Vivam into this as well. Let me put myself and my company in the center. I'm probably a voice of the FMCG industry. For us, nutrition products, good products with the Tata brand name, which means trust, quality, and the fact that the process we use has to be, of course, ensuring that carbon, energy, the water footprint is appropriately managed. Now we do all of that, but ultimately, it all boils down to that plastic packet you see on the road, which then enters into the system, into the gut health of from sportsmen to stocks. Is regulation the only answer, ma'am?
Well, I won't say regulation is the only answer, not at all, because you cannot do policing to that extent. And more or less, we have also accepted, and it's a wrong acceptance, that plastic is perhaps the cheapest thing which is available to us as convenience, which is affordable. Now, I'll go back and of course, we have seen many years, unlike these young kids who were brought up in the environment where plastic was an important component. If I go back to my own school days, we had stainless steel lunch boxes, which will run more than a year, and they were never discarded. Once they were not fit to be taken to the school, they will become a storage box at home. So they had a long life. Unlike today, I'm sure all these kids, they change their lunch boxes twice a year or so. The other thing is the kids, I suppose they are going to show us the way. And I'll just draw one example that happened at my place. So one morning, my grandchildren, they take cake to the school, home-baked cake, and usually packed in Ziplocs. So my daughter simply said, don't throw it in the bin because single-use plastic is banned. And immediately her son ran to the kitchen and he said, no, I won't carry it in polythene, I'll carry it in a box. And that weekend he actually wanted to buy a box which will be fit for his cake. So really speaking, 20 polythene bags, Ziplocs, which were going to the bin, they were stopped. So therefore, I think it's your duty as well to look into it. And since I'm talking of what was happening at our time, today we talk the word circularity, sustainability, but without using those words that was practiced at home. The cloth bags were always stitched at home. We will carry them to the market, and I remember in Bombay, they came up with synthetic bags which you can fold properly and put it in your bag. So when you are going to market to buy many things, you will carry 4 or 5 of those bags and do your shopping. Why can't we do it today again? They can be manufactured, they are even available today, but it's only that we have left that, and even the shopkeeper, if you buy something and you tell him, he'll say, no, your bag will become dirty, take it in polythene. So everywhere it is encouraged that you use poly bags. Somewhere I'll also blame the corporate world. And I'll come to, since you mentioned you worked in Coca-Cola, so I'll take one example. See, we have come out with aluminium cans. Really speaking, the packaging cost of aluminium cans is more or less similar to a PET bottle. They can be recycled. If you really collect them properly, they can be recycled for many times. While PET bottle, you have to discard. Most of the manufacturers, what they have done, they have kept that as a premium item. And therefore, as a customer, I have to pay a higher price if I go for the aluminium can. Why? So therefore, it's the responsibility of corporates as well. Rather, they should have collection centers put in so that these cans are never thrown on the road or in the garbage. So if you give back 50 paisa a can or something, I'm sure people will collect, and if not you, the help at your house, they will collect it and they will ensure it is recycled. The third part I would like to say is why we are not investing in bioplastic. It is available, and I'll just draw another example in which Terry worked. We are all talking of biofuels, and one of our projects was why not to have the marine strains of alga so that you are not using fresh water to grow algae. Of course, your lipid you compromised on lipid levels, 18 to 20% of lipid. Now what do you do with the remaining 80%? You feed them as animal feed, and you can also convert that into bioplastic, a very good grade of bioplastic. Maybe it is little expensive, but then look at the cost. You have to do the LCA. What is the cost of degradation of the plastic which you are using otherwise? So therefore, let's look into, can we minimize the use of plastic? I'll say maybe the corporates should distribute free bags, the synthetic bags, so that people can carry it. Another example, and that I don't know it was because of a university town or it's all around the UK. Tesco came out with a plan, and it was £5 for a plastic bag, and they said it's bag for the lifetime. So the moment it gets torn, you return to the shop and they'll give you a new one. And they'll come with very nice designs, but they won't change the bag unless and until it is beyond usage. So £5 is quite a bit of money, but at the same time, it ensures that you are recycling, you are taking back that bag to the shop. Why can't we come out with such regulations in the country? So single-use plastic needs to be banned, but you have others also. Another thing which I will like to mention, that's where my last comment of other time being, is waste is not just plastic. And especially for the Northeast, and I had gone to Arunachal, beautiful place, every turn is scenic, but there are turns where there is lots and lots of waste over there. Not just plastic, but other kind of waste as well. It takes long time to degrade. Why can't we have biogas plants in this area? Even the night soil is a resource, because on one end they have to collect so much of wood to take care of their daily requirements as well as heating requirements during the winter season, and on other side they have problem of degradation of waste. So you collect the waste, put it for biogas, and ultimately there will be no waste and enough energy. So let's look into those opportunities as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I think you've given us a number of examples there. Thank you for that. And clearly, as a member of the corporate world, we carry a lot of that responsibility for sure. If I may come to you, ma'am, again, planet versus plastic, what would success for you look like?
Success for me is upscaling ideas that have worked. Taking off from what Dr. Dhawan said about cloth bags, we work with Delhi Municipal Corporation this Earth Day, where cloth bags were made from remnants from factories and placed in markets, in all municipal markets. You paid 20 rupees to buy a cloth bag, and you didn't have to return it to that market. You could return it to any of the Delhi municipal markets. Whether it was dirty or not, it did not matter. Can other cities take this up? This is an example that can work. The other thing that Dr. Dhawan spoke about was how, as youngsters, we didn't discard things easily. I remember having a kameez which turned into a skirt, which turned into other shorts and then dusters. So let's go back to that. Unfortunately, we have fast fashion where you wear and discard. Let us discourage that. We have begun with a program called Pre-Loved Clothes, where youngsters can put them on the net and others can take them from there. So these are just ideas. We as an NGO are small, but we have pilot tested some ideas. It's up to others to take them up to scale, because we don't have the finance to do that. But we would be happy to share. Everything we do is free and on the net. All the books we have produced of ideas are all on the net. So please do look at them and see what would suit you from there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for lending your voice. We're running a bit of short on time, so I'll just finish up with Dr. Burman and you, Nimrod. Dr. Burman, your idea of success, you've been working so hard, not just in terms of the adjacent stock, but also looking at mobilizing rural women. So what is your next milestone that you want to now look at?
Thank you so much again. Like this conservation model, community conservation model, and where women are leading, and in our model, when we are talking about Hargila Army, every woman she takes a pledge to bring her entire family, including her husband, children. So it's like I want to replicate. I want to take forward this model to everywhere where we have other species, and I also request other conservationists, and I'm always ready to collaborate, and I'd be very happy if this model of community conservation led by communities be replicated in the world. Thank you.
And we wish you all the very best with that way forward.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add when we are talking about the waste management and all, I just want to mention a last line, lead by example. So I think everyone, if we take one pledge, let's lead by example. So when we change ourselves first, myself, then we can ask others. So I think, like for example, these are the great initiative. No, we are not using plastics, but if you see many meetings where you can see all the people know this, but they are not aware. So I request everyone to lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you. Last one for you, Nimrod. Waste is not waste. We began with that. So, as a behavioral economist and psychologist, what is the one tip you have for all of us?
So I think that just above us through the whole event we have naturenomics, and I don't know how much attention are we giving to this brilliant combination, because we started that waste is not a waste, waste is a resource. We continue with the circular economy, which means that if we are able to communicate, and not only in the Balipura Foundation, but in universities and degrees and in corporates, that naturenomics is a word, it's a term, it's something that we understand that the economy runs like that. At the moment we're still thinking linearly, we are still somewhere stuck in the industrial revolution where something starts and then there is input and there is output. But I think naturenomics is where we will reach to a real, true and natural success of a circular economy that corporates, activists, waste, animal are all coming together.
Thank you so much. Big hand to all my panelists, please. Vibha ma'am, Dr. Banyan, Sarva ma'am, Nimrod. And I really hope that this platform really lends voice. My thanks to the Balipara Foundation for having us out here and for giving us an opportunity to really bring such diverse points of view together. I hope you've got something out of here, at least one or two tips, one or two thoughts, which I think we can go back and change. Yeah? Let's go and make a change out there in the world, and let's ensure that all of us can make that impact that we would like to make. Thank you so much.